So here's another update. This is the Bachmann N-scale turntable deconstructed. So there's a little gear here, and I'll talk about the metal disc in a second. That is not part of the original design, but this little gear here, let me lift these out of the way, spins, and that little peg engages these little slots here and rotates that one index position at a time. And then of course it rotates and does nothing, and then engages and does that. So what I wanted to do is, how can I positively rotate one time on an index and count it in my control system? So I added this little magnet here in the gear, and then we'll put a proc switch on the bottom, and I'll show you what that looks like. And what we will do is we will rotate it, and that proc switch will come on, indicating it made one full rotation. It goes off, comes on, indicates it one's full rotation. So that will count rotations, but how will I know to index position? The bottom of the thing, I'll glue on two magnets on the bottom of that. That slides into the mechanism. So the system uses three sensors. You got a homing sensor, so this is when this track is aligned to the first, what I call point position 0. And then I have these, so start of the rotation index, and the index is done. So when the gear continues rotation, this is actually doing nothing out here. So I use two sensors, one to detect the start and one to detect the end of rotation. So you see in the pictures, I showed where I placed the magnets. I showed where I put the sensors. So here's how the Bachmann works. There's actually a little pin right here. And that pin, as the motor spins it, goes into the slot, and then it drags the turntable one position, and then it comes out of the slot. The gear continues to rotate, and then comes into the next slot and rotates one position. So you can see on the table, and I showed the sensors, I have a sensor here and here. So I sense when it goes into the slot, and I sense when it comes out of the slot. So my intention is, I will try to go slow speed here. And I found about 7 volts is about what you can go, so I'll go slow speed. And then I can step it up to 12, 13 volts, which makes this high speed, and then stop. And then when I press the index button, I will slow speed, sensor, high speed, stop. So that's pretty much how it indexes, one step at a time. My next thing is, of course, as it rotates and it gets to this position to this position, the polarity on the track switches. So I could use an auto reverser, but I already know how it's working, and my PLC is counting the stations that it goes around. So I could just auto reverse this myself, so this will be always the correct polarity for the tracks coming in and the tracks going out. So I don't really need an auto reverser. I can do that in the control logic to always make sure the track is at the right polarity versus how it's going in and off the track. So as it goes 180 degrees, it'll do the correct polarity. So, and I'll try to update some more on this, but we'll put this together. We'll test it all out, test my code. Eventually the code is actually going to be, this will be the home station, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then there's 2 here, 12 and 13, but these don't actually come out here, but they're on this side. So the code from the touchscreen, I can just press what station I want to rotate, and from wherever it's at, it will go to that station. So we'll try the index and then we'll do the station code. But we'll see how that works. So I failed to mention the wiring. Wiring is basically 4 wires. So the 2 wires for the motor, and then plus or minus you can forward or reverse, and then the 2 wires that lead to the track on the turntable. So I will control the polarity of the 2 gray wires and control the voltage and the polarity going to the motor for indexing slow, fast, and reverse. Pretty simple wiring. Got rid of the little circuit board. So here I've reinstalled the turntable, put all the detail back on it, did the track. One thing I should note is this used to have the little copper tabs at the end of the turntable that would engage each of these track. That's how it would maintain continuity across to the next track. I did away with all that, and then I had to notch all these little things here. What the goal is, nothing actually is binding up the turntable because those used to scrape on the top of the turntable. So this should be nice and smooth mechanically. And I put an engine on there, though there's no power going to the track, so I can't move the engine, but this is just for the weight. And you can see it indexes one time. You can hear the motor. I got a little DC to DC converter. I had to move this to 10 volts with the weight of the locomotive. That actually weighs it down. So, and the touchscreen. So as I index it, so I can show you here. So you press the button, it indexes, and it goes to the next station. So nice and smooth. Now one thing about alignment. This is pretty much self-aligning. As you see in the beginning of the video, I showed you the mechanicals inside of it. So there's actually a little Vlier pin, a little pin, spring-loaded pin that locks on the groove as it rotates into position. I actually removed that pin because that kind of made it hang up as well and not be smooth. And I've not seen any alignment. It actually stops exactly where it's supposed to. I haven't done the speed shift function. I don't think I need to. With the 10 volts, it comes around pretty good. And actually, these are the 2 proxies under the table. So you can watch how it works. So it goes off, sees the 1, comes around, and that second, when it comes back on, that's when it stops indexing. So my next step is I want to be able to just press the button and have it rotate to that position. So indexing is good. Everything looks good. I'm going to get power to the track and do the auto reversing. If you notice on the graphics, I show the red, black, and as it rotates around, they flip as it's mapped out. So, and I started detailing. If you notice, I painted it. I did a very minor weathering in it. I don't want to get too carried away with it. I'm going to detail out this little shack here, put some controls in it. And I was thinking about this, but obviously there's not a lot I can do there because it's filled. Though the circuit board used to be there, I suppose I could, I don't know, open up the window and maybe add something. I got to think about that, but I'll detail the little shack, do a little more weathering, and make it a little more realistic. And then of course when I get all the track up to it, we're going to ballast up to it. I'll need to put a set of stairs up here. Little things like that. Detail it out so it actually looks realistic. Enjoy!